Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Board Game Buffet podcast, number 92. My name is Dean.
This is Graeme.
Graeme, I'll tell you, seems like we just recorded an episode the other day. So we're here at 92. Everything's moving along, clicking along. Games are being played. I actually got some games in, which I know will probably shock you. But got some games played, got some counters clipped for my war games. My hand is not quite recovered. I think I clipped about 1,000 counters, so four corners on a count, so about 4,000 clippings, which I know you think is insane. But
you tried to explain to me before why you clip corners. I still don't fully understand why wargamers clip the corner on their counters.
I mean, one, they look good with rounded corners. It also makes it easier if you're going to have big stacks of them for like moving them with tweezers.
But you're not making them thinner. You're just rounding the corners.
I know, but sometimes people will accidentally grab them with their tweezers, like on the corners. And if they're pointy, then they can like flip out of the tweezers and go shooting all over the place. It doesn't happen very often. A lot of times it's because when you punch them out, they get little hangers on as well. Everyone has their own reasons. I don't clip everything. If a game is going to get played, multiple times, maybe some counters are too thick. Some counters don't need them. I'll be honest, a lot of publishers now are already making their counters with rounded corners. It's beautiful.
See, for me, I would actually want one rounded corner, three squares and one rounded. Why? Because I like all my counters being exactly the same pointy direction. So if you had the rounded corner that was consistent, then you always know when you stack your counters up that they're all facing the same way.
Okay. Well, I guess, yeah. Does that keep the goblins from coming up out of the earth and killing you or something?
No, I like having all my stuff lined up. And if I know that the top of the counter, wherever the rounded corner is consistent on all the counters, then my inner soul can kind of be rest assured that all my counters are facing the proper way.
I'm going to get you to play a monster chit war game, and I'm just going to have counters out there every which way facing. I mean, now in some games where facing matters, which it depends on the time period where, the facing that you're in the hex or in the square, it does matter. I guess I could see that, but yeah, that's just, that's a little too much OCD. I can't believe you wouldn't want to clip counters. Your OCD could kick in. You could clip them, and then you could get out your micrometer just to make sure that they're all exactly the same size cut.
Well, I had a corner clipper for doing I used to do some print and play to round the corner of cards.
Mm-hmm.
That was one that was specifically designed to make rounded corners. That was perfect.
Yeah, that's what my clippers are.
I just thought you'd assume you use nail clippers or something.
I mean, you could, but mine is designed. It's I can't remember if it's a 2 millimeter or I think it's a 2.5 millimeter. And it's handheld, but you get the ones that's a bigger one, you can push down on it, but it's got where you put it in, it's like a little V shape, so they fit in there perfectly. And then no matter what size the counter is, they're going to make it I think it's a 2.5 millimeter rounded corner. Every once in a while, you'll get a weird one in there that might get a little jagged, but that's more user error, I think, than anything else.
Yeah, see, it's funny because clipping corners doesn't do anything for me, but I do like stickering blocks.
Yeah, the only reason I clip the counters, honestly, is because I can sit in front of the TV, watch a baseball game, movie, or whatever. I can do it in my hotel room. Just passes the time. Right. I don't think I would just like sit at a table and do it. It's usually just kind of go on autopilot and clip them. There's a guy who does has a wargaming YouTube channel, and he has a weekly live Q&A session, and it's clipping counters. And so the whole hour he's talking to people, or 2 hours, he's just clipping counters like the whole time. And then they're having these discussions in the chat or whatever. Like, yeah, that's pretty good. Why not? You're gonna talk anyways and clip. So yeah.
I was amused by our last podcast that we released. It seemed that we kind of struck a chord with people for our top 5 list.
Yeah, people really they like that top five list. And I don't know if they like the top five list or they like the fact they're not going to have to hear about those games anymore. I think Ken had said, hey, we should do that every year. I'm like, well, geez, we put five away every year. Of course, we have to bring the other five out or they're 10 out or whatever. But yeah, that was something different. I mean, so I think I even mentioned in one of the video comments that I can't believe neither one of us thought about Concordia.
I had thought about it, but I didn't think that you talked about Concordia a lot. I thought you would put Concordia on my list.
I just kind of forgot about it.
Right.
But I don't know if anyone suggested any other games that we should have put on there.
I don't think anybody else did, but a lot of people wanted us to revisit in a certain period of time to put more games into the vault.
Right.
Needless to say, this week does not have a top five list.
What's the point? We're never doing another top five. Yeah, so I'm saying is a way around that, because we did say top five list. Can we maybe do top four lists and then they can reappear? Nah, I did get an email from Ian though, in a very Lovecraftian prose, lamenting or rubbing it into me that he or that Arkham Horror is in the vault. And I said, don't worry. I said, there's plenty of Lovecraft games out there for me to play and decide. And even if I don't like them, I'll just mention them all the time.
And mention them like this one's not as good as Arkham Horror, but it's still going to go on my list.
Yeah, it's not as good as Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror. If you're not familiar with those games, let me explain what those games do. So, I still got Fate of the Elder Gods. That's always a good one.
Yep.
Maybe we'll just do a top five list of non Lovecraftian. Maybe we'll just do a top five list every other week of Lovecraft Cthulhu games.
So what about me then?
You'll just have to play more of them. Go out there and buy Cthulhu Wars. I mean, your wife wants the game. I don't understand why you won't buy it for her.
I mean, she played it once, and then she liked the game. She's like, "Oh, we should buy this." And I told her the price. She goes, "Okay, maybe not."
No, she played it once. That's worth the $1,000, $1,200 investment. So,
no, it's not. It may have been before we had played it, because I mean they're gorgeous minis. But when we actually got a chance to play, it was like the game itself is pretty. I don't want to say basic, but it's an area control style game.
Yeah, we only played it the one time, so I don't know. I mean, I thought it was going to be more epic than it was, but you're right. It's area control, area majority, and it was still fun. It just was different than I thought it was going to be. But you could paint those miniatures.
Well, it's just it was fun, but I didn't think it was $500 worth of fun.
Well, the base game's only a couple $100.
Yeah, a couple hundred. It's not worth a couple $100 worth of fun. I didn't think anyway. But that's.
Well, I don't own it either, so.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't have a whole lot for Banner for just chit chat, and I think we talked about a ton of stuff last time, and it's only been a few days since we recorded last, so I haven't had anything that exciting happen. Got a cool stuff box today, but I won't spoil that because we'll talk about that in the catch up. Got a couple more boxes on the way from other companies, not from Cool Stuff.
That aren't sponsors. No, wait, Cool Stuff isn't a sponsor either.
No, the only sponsors we have are our wallets. that are the sponsors and our Patreons. But is it Patreons or patrons?
I've always heard it as Patreon.
Well, Patreon's the website, but if they support us on Patreon, are they patrons then? I think they are.
Sure, we'll go with that. So I do have a question. You said you're getting more when you talked about which games you'd ordered, and you needed an order to get your, like the one game you wanted wasn't enough to get free shipping, so you bought an extra game to bring it up to that. Because I'm finding now that I am, even if there's a game that came out this week that I really wanted, I'm delaying my orders until I'm generally doing once a month now. Do you order whenever you see it, or do you kind of put it in your wish list and say, I'll come back in a month when I know that there's going to be more than just the one game I want. There are going to be hopefully 5 games by next time. Like, do you save up the orders, all the stuff to make one big order, or just kind of order piecemeal?
It depends. I mean, so the one that I ordered that came today, I got it because it was on sale. And I think it was a daily sale. So it was only on sale for one day. So I got that one and then ordered the other game with it. If it's just a game that's just come into stock, it's a new release or whatever, I probably will just mark it as either in my cart or on the wish list, and then wait to see if anything else comes in. If it sells out, it sells out, whatever. The other two that I ordered this week, one was in the aftermarket, it was on an auction on BGG. So, that's just a single game coming. And then the other one I got was, you'll probably cringe. I ordered a war game that just came out, and I got it because it was still on the pre-order price for the discount. So it was only $100 instead of the 120 that it was gonna that it was gonna be. And yeah, I don't know if it'll ever get played, but I want the game. So that's that's between you and I and our listeners, not anyone else that may be able to hear that.
Yeah, because I'm finding now I kind of save all my orders up, and
Yeah.
I really only want to do one order a month. And even then, it's like 3 or 4 games. I'm becoming a lot more picky with the games I order. It used to be I'd buy just about anything that came out because I knew I was hopefully going to be able to get a chance to review them. Now, I don't think I'm ever going to be the person that only reviews games I like, because
Right.
I think that becomes very repetitive. But I'm also kind of looking at the games going, if I really don't think I'm going to like this game, or really don't like, because if people don't know, I'm not a big fan of auctions. I'm not a big fan of area control, area majority games. I will play them. Auctions are probably my least favorite. So if there's a brand new game that came out that was, auctions are us, even if I thought I could review the game, I probably wouldn't, because I know, I always have a stack of games to play. That auction game would always be at the bottom, and it's going to become too late for me to do a review on it. So it's kind of like, well, I bought a game that I'm never going to review and never going to play, so I'm not going to order it in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I mean, like I said, I will save up some games to get all at one time. And then what I find more than likely lately, anyways, it's either been I've been ordering older games that are still in print that I just didn't get the first time, and now know that, hey, I think either I know for sure I like it because I've played it, someone else's copy, or I'm pretty sure I'll like it. And so I'll get those. Like I say, I got the one. I think of the 5 games that I ordered this week. Only one of them was a new game, a new release, and that was the one I got for that was a pre-order. Everything else is at least 2 to 3 years old.
Yeah, and I know one of the games you bought was Zolkin,
Mm-hmm.
which is one that I've owned for a couple of years now. And I know you played my copy of it, but since you basically you bought it for yourself just recently. Did you buy it for completeness sake? Because you're not going to be playing it with Amy and the kids. So you're probably,
are you saying they're stupid? Are you saying my family's stupid, Graeme?
I'm just saying they're not as into gaming as you are. So
Politically,
you will probably play that at a con, which will more than likely have a copy of Zolkin there. So why did you buy? So why did you buy it for yourself, knowing that you'll probably never play your copy of it?
Well, one, because I want it.
Sorry, do you want to lay down on the couch first?
Okay, so one, because I want it.
But want it for what though?
Okay, so I want it because I like the game, and I don't know what my future holds. We're going to be moving. I may move to a place where there's so like if we end up moving to Findlay area where my son's at, there is a game shop there that has a Thursday night game night. It's also closer to Dan and the guys that game up there. Not sure if they'd want to play it or not. Let's say we move to Columbus. You've got the Cabs group. Now they probably have it in their game library. It's a big game library. But I don't know what my future holds. So it could get played, not at a con. Maybe we do a mod con and we want to play it again, and then I'll have a copy. And then the other thing is that I find that I'm also looking at games that, because of certain certain conditions or um, movements within the hobby, I don't know if they're still going to be available down the road. They may be deemed to be too politically insensitive or whatever you want to phrase. I'm not trying to make light of it, but you just don't know how the wind's blowing. And if that designer falls out of favor, if that theme falls out of favor, that publisher falls out of favor, I don't know what the future holds for some of these games. And so I could see that Zolkin may fall into that.
So I used to buy games because I wanted to own them. And
not play them. You're sick.
No, but so a perfect example is a Splatter game. I know when Megan used to live here, so I mean she's moved off to France, that I could be guaranteed to be able to play any new Splatter game with Megan because she also enjoyed them. Lola's not a big fan of Splatter. She finds them too heavy, too much like work, and not enough fun in that work. Well, I do find them fun, but I do recognize that they are, mental gymnastics that you have to go through, and it's thinking about things for 2 hours. You have to have like a 2-hour plan to play the game. I enjoy that. She doesn't. So if I bought the next Splatter game, I don't know if I'd be able to play it. So when the next Splatter game does come out, I'd have to think very hard over, am I going to buy this? As much as I love Splatter games, if I'm never going to get a chance to play it, is it worth me buying it?
I mean, I can see that for the price point, but I also look at it from the standpoint, if you look back, say you look back at 15 years ago at some of the games that were probably very popular within the hobby, how many of those are still in print? Not very many. Now you may say, well, if they were good games, they'd still be in print, but I don't know. I don't necessarily know. I mean, I don't know if that's always the case, because I think that they're, for whatever reason, some games just don't come back, whether it's contractual, designer, whatever, or maybe they're just on to other things. But they're still good games. They're still fun to play, and I'm sure people still have them in their collections. Yeah, I'm not saying they're going to be, if they brought them back, they're going to be, become number ones or whatever. But I don't know.
So Zolkin is, in my mind, a good example. Splatter's not so much, because Splatter games are kind of like war games. They're very, very niche. Mm-hmm. If you like a certain war or certain time period of war or history or whatever else, you will probably buy the games that kind of fit that, what you like. And for me, it's Splatter games. I like their design philosophy. They don't make very many games. They make one every 5 years. So I'm willing to.
And they generally hold their value.
Yeah. But something like Zolkin. Zolkin came out in 2014, 15, something like that.
Yeah, something like that, 12, 13, 14.
Somewhere around there. So let's say it's almost a decade old. We have, even the designer himself has designed new games. Why go back and buy a game from 10, 15 years ago if the hobby as a whole has evolved to refine those mechanisms and to come up with new mechanisms that are new? When we look back at 10 or 15 years, you think, let's say a lot of great games came out in 2006, or even a few great games. It's like, oh yeah, that one led to this great game, and then this great game led to this great game. So why go back and buy the original game from 15 years ago when it's kind of spawned a couple other really good, great, fantastic games? Why not just buy those? So why go back to buy Zolkin, knowing that there'll probably be an evolution of Zolkin that uses the same idea that you could buy, that could come out in a year? If you don't have plans, like you're saying, one day you'll be able to play Zolkin, if you don't have plans to play it right now, then why not wait until you do get a chance to play a game like Zolkin and buy whatever the new version of Zolkin is?
Well, okay, I needed to fill my cart to get to $100. Zolkin's like $42. It's not like I'm spending $100 on a swatter game.
But you had just said you out of the 5 games you bought, 4 of them were old.
Yeah, Zolkin's an old one.
Yeah. So why pick up Zolkin? Why not fill your cart with something new?
Okay, so but of the older ones that I got, so there's Zolkin. The one that was on sale is a few years old, but I haven't played it. I mean, Zolkin's the only one that I played and still wanted to get. The other ones, the one is a war game I haven't played. The other pre-order one is a war game, haven't played. The other one is a PAX game, which I haven't played. I want to play it. It's not maybe as exciting as some of the other PAX games, but it was $20 before shipping. I think I paid 10 for shipping. And it's another one of those that I think may never see print again, based off of the theme of it and based off of the hatred of the designer currently, as well. And yes, I am a completionist. I've always said, I would never deny that, whether it was with comics or, games or whatever. And I mean, I didn't go scouring looking for this game. I just saw it as I was scrolling through an auction. I'm like, oh, yeah, $20. Yeah, sure. I don't know. Why are you so judgmental?
No, I find it interesting that, we do your, it all looks so good segment.
Yes, it does.
But I mean, and you're not the only one. There's an awful lot of people like you that they enjoy the collecting as much as they enjoy playing the games.
Right.
And for me, it's all about playing the games, not so much collecting. Like, I don't care about like the expansions. I don't care whether my version of whatever is complete. If I have the base game and there's 16 expansions for it, I'm fine with not buying any of the expansions. I don't derive joy from board games of collecting them. I enjoy getting them to play them, figuring I will play this game. I don't, you joked about Ian giving you the thing about Cthulhu. He sometimes buys games strictly because he knows he can trade them through a math trade.
Okay.
And I'm looking at it going, I would never do that. For me, the hobby for me is not about that. The hobby for me is about playing games, but I recognize the hobby for an awful lot of people is about the collecting of it, about walking through your shelves going, oh yeah, I remember hunting this game down. I remember getting a really good deal on this game. I remember being able to find this game that's been out of print for so long and it's on my shelf. Have you played it? No, I would like to one day, but I'm just happy that it's on my shelf.
So, I mean, I know you're not saying that your version of how you participate in the hobby is better. At least I hope you're not saying that.
No, because different people get different things from the hobby.
Yeah. Everyone has their bugaboos, of whatever. I mean, you won't throw away an expansion box. Now, you don't get that many expansions, but you won't throw away an expansion box and condense it down in the base game. To me, that doesn't bother me, which kind of goes against probably the completionist sort of thing of why get rid of the box. I don't always get rid of the empty box for the expansion. Sometimes I save the empty boxes, but I do condense stuff down. I'll throw away the inserts out of games. But at the same time, how many
the inserts?
I know, but think about it. I mean, I could say the same though about you with your technology. To me, owning one 3D printer is not worth my time and effort. And you have 2 or 3 or whatever it is, or even like multiple monitors and stuff like that. I mean, yes, I know you do it for work and stuff like that, but I mean, I look at some of my coworkers who have like 2 or 3 monitors, like in their van, in their workstation, in their vehicle, and I have none. I just use my laptop, and they got like some sort of, they look at some sort of covert stakeout operation in their vehicle, and I'm like, why? I'm like, I don't plan on spending that much time in there to do it, but they like the technology, they like the stuff. I mean, and I think it goes back to, fundamentally we're hunters and gatherers. I guess if I was a caveman or a cave person, I don't know, maybe I'd be a hermaphrodite because I like to hunt and I like to gather. So I'm not sure if one is specific to one role or the other, but it's the thrill of the hunt sometimes. And I talked about it even with comics. I could have got online and bought any version I wanted, but it was the thrill of the hunt of going into, a mom and pop dusty comic book store and finding it. And the same sometimes can be, why don't I just, get online and buy it in the aftermarket? I like the thrill of the hunt and the auctions sometimes too. Can I get it for $2 less? I mean, $2 means nothing in the scope of things, but it's the thrill of getting it for $2 less, of beating someone else out.
I mean, even with Lella and her hobbies, she does glass work, and she also does cross stitching. She's been cross stitching since she was a teenager, and she has collected hundreds of cross stitching patterns. She only does like one every couple of years. She's never going to be able to do all that cross stitch stuff, but she enjoys going to the stores and leafing through all the things, going, "Oh, isn't this beautiful? I'd like to do this one day." And she buys it. It's like, well, you say you're going to do that, you'd like to do it one day, but there is no real definite plan to do it in any particular time.
So,
it's not
so
like
she goes into the store, she finds it, she finds joy in it, and there you pop up right at the cashiers going, "That's a waste. Why are you buying that? You're never going to make that. You're a Debbie Downer."
And again, it comes back to, I do buy an awful lot of gadgets because I like to tinker, but I don't buy gadgets and put them on the shelf thinking one day I'm going to tinker with that. I generally get a gadget and use it right away. I may not use it for long, but I will use, same thing with getting a game. I get a game, I play it. I may not play it again or ever again and sits on my shelf, but I have tried it, used it, played it, whatever, when I first got it. I never buy anything that I don't think I'm going to realistically play or use.
Well, I think,
like,
you use the term realistic. I mean, I think that just is dependent. I mean, yes, everything I buy, I have the intention of, I want to play it. I don't ever buy something thinking I'll never get to play it.
But you don't have when I buy a set of games, I think this will be the next time I play a game, it's going to be one of these that I buy.
Okay.
I never think I really want this game. One day I hope to play it. It is, no, I'm buying this game because next Saturday, next time we play a game, this is the game we're going to play.
Well, and if I wasn't on the road 8 to 9 months out of the year, and if my family wanted to play games more, or if I had people that were willing to come to my house or whatever, then yes, I would probably be in the same boat as you. But I'm not. So yes, my intention is that I get to play it someday. But I'm also realistic. I mean, maybe it doesn't, but at the same time, whatever. I mean,
I'd just be interested to know, even from our listeners, kind of what camp do they fall in, or are there more camps that I'm not thinking about? So kind of my camp is, I buy a game figuring I'm going to play it within the next month. And if I don't think I'm going to be able to play it the next month, I probably won't end up getting the game. And if I miss out on a game, I'm fine with that. Dean gets some of his enjoyment of board gaming through the actual collection of games. Yes, he wants to play all of his games, but he knows realistically in his lifetime, he's not going to be able to play every single one of his games, but he enjoys the getting of it, the kickstarting it, the finding it in a store, finding it in an auction, whatever else, because he wants to own that particular game. So for our listeners, which camp are you in? Are you in, and neither side is better than the other. They're just two different sides of the hobby. So I'm just kind of being,
I can tell you one side is now kind of depressed, but sure, go ahead.
No, but if part of your enjoyment from board gaming hobby is collecting, there's nothing wrong with that. Because that in itself is, and for some people, it's very enjoyable. Just that the act of researching and looking into and being able to purchase that game brings an awful lot of people joy. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
And then I think I've probably said this before too, even with the comics, you asked me one time, have I read them all? No, I probably have read 5% of the, I don't know how many thousands that I own. And it was never about reading. It was about the collecting. It was about the completionist. It was about the runs. It was about the art. It was about searching out, the key issues, as they would say, first appearances or first art drawn by this artist, whatever the case may be. That's what it was for me. I was not really interested in reading the vast majority of of the stories or the storylines. But like I said, I think with anything else, any type of collecting, I think you're always walking a fine line of addiction and a form of psychosis. So on that note, I did get to play a game this week. But how many do you have? Two again?
I've got two again.
Mr. Show Off, two. All right. Why don't you go first with yours?
Okay. So the first game I'm going to talk about in our banter is one called Herlof, Herrlof. It's a Viking themed game, and I use Viking theme very, very usefully. It's a card game for 2 players. Dean and I have quite often talked about the Fox in the Forest, 2-player trick-taking game that we both really enjoy. And this is a game that actually Dean introduced me to, and I spent like the next several months trying to get a copy of it because of how much I enjoyed it, so I could play with Lela. So Herlof is a 2-person trick-taking game that seems to me that the designer played Fox in the Forest and went, that's really cool. I'm going to make my own version of it, change almost no rules, and then re-release it with a Viking theme. So the deck is, I want to say 45 cards. I think it's 45 cards. You deal out 15 cards to each player. So the draw deck is 15 cards. Turn over the top card, that's trump. And it's a typical trick-taking game. Whatever, they are four suits of cards, 1 through 9. And their suits, colors, whatever you want to call them. And the way trick-taking games work is if I play a color of card, Dean has to play the same color. If he doesn't have the color, then he can throw out whatever card he wants. Then there's also a color called trump, which is any of those cards are basically the strongest cards in the deck. So if the trump suit is red, then the 9 red is the most powerful card in the game and will win any trick. So I play, a green 4. Dean only has a green 1, so he throws out as a green 1. The 4 beats the 1 since they're both green, I win it. If I throw out a 4 green and he doesn't have any greens and he throws out a yellow 9, because he didn't play a green card, I still win a trick. That's basically the basis of trick taking. And that's the way this game works. At the beginning of the round, after you dealt the 15 cards, you turn over the top card to determine what trump is. Then we both have a sheet of paper and you write down how many tricks you think you're going to win. So you can win 0 through 15 tricks. And you put it down and you play 15 rounds of playing a card. The other person plays a card, see who wins. Now, the reason why I say it's very much like Fox in the Forest is because the 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 cards have special abilities, which is exactly the same as Fox in the Forest. They work pretty much the same way with some slight differences. For example, if I win a trick with a 9 card, normally whoever wins the trick is the person that leads the next round. If I win with a 9, then actually Dean will lead the next trick. If I play a 7, I forget what they all do. I know the 9 has the other person lead. If I win with a 1, I actually get to steal a trick from the other player. If I play a 3, I draw a card and then discard a card. I think the 7 allows me to steal one of Dean's cards and give him one of mine. Then there are 2 special cards in the deck. One is the knot, which is like a thing of triangles, kind of 3 different triangles interlinked, like a Viking knot. And the other one is just like an N. The N is the lowest card. So if Dean plays a 1, the N would actually be underneath it. It would be like a 0.5. So it's always 0.5, whatever the other person threw out. But whoever loses that trick gets to lead the next trick. So it's kind of a way to, yes, I'm going to give up a trick, but if I really need to lead, it allows me to do that. And the knot basically cancels that trick. That trick no longer exists. Both the cards are discarded out of the deck. There are some special things if 2 ends are played, if 2 knots are played, whatever else. When all 15 tricks have been played, if 15 rounds, you then see how many tricks you've won and see what your bid was. You'll always get 1 point per trick that you won. And if you match exactly your guess, that guess is worth 10 points. So if I guessed 7, but I won 8, well, I only get the 8 points from my tricks. I don't get the 10 points from bidding the 7. But if I guessed 7 and I won 7, I would get 17 points, 7 for my tricks and 10 for the bid. If you only get 3 or 4 tricks in the game, and it's very specific, it's 3 or 4, then you get a bonus of 5 points, because basically you didn't. But if you only win 1 or 2, 1, 2, yeah, if you win 1 or 2, you don't get any bonus. You only get the bonus for 3 or 4. So if you did really, really poorly, you might only get 1 point. But if you do kind of mediocre, like 3 or 4, you get a bonus of 5 points. First person to 50 is the winner, and that's it. Like I said, the gameplay is very much like Fox in the Forest. The only thing that this really adds is that bidding at the beginning of the round. It was fine. I would say if you can't find Fox in the Forest, but you found this one and you really wanted to play a trick taking game, I would say maybe worth your while. If you have Fox in the Forest, I really don't think this adds much more beyond that I would say you need both of them in your collection. And I can't see this one replacing Fox in the Forest, mainly because this one is, in some ways, it's kind of clunky. If I win with a 9, I'm giving up control, and remembering that is odd. Or when I play and that happens at the end of the round. So I play my 9, I win, I collect my trick, then Dean goes. If I play a 3, we kind of pause the game while I draw the card off the top of the deck and then do the exchange. If I play the 7, which is the one from stealing one of Dean's cards, that doesn't happen until I win with the 7. It is kind of interesting to try and manipulate your tricks to try and get exactly what you bid, but it's very difficult to determine exactly how many you're gonna win. I'd almost like to be almost like a sliding scale. You get 10. If you're 1 on either side, you get 5 points or something like that. Because I was able to guess correctly twice. That got me 20 points, which means I zoomed past Lella. Did I play so much better? I don't think I played much better. I was just kind of lucky with I was more lucky with my guesses than she was. Like, I don't think it was through skillful play that I got the bonus points, because it just so happens that I was able to dump some of my tricks. But with 15 cards left over, it's extremely difficult. Well, you can't count cards. If there's 1 or 2, you can kind of guess. Lella probably has the 9 here, but with 15 cards, all the 9s may be in that deck that I just don't know about. It becomes almost a random thing for that bidding, which was, yeah, I like Fox in the Forest a bit better. So anyway, that was my first game. So you have a question about it?
Yeah. So how many tricks do you say how many tricks are you playing per round, hand?
So
whatever?
15. You're dealt 15 cards, then you're bidding on how many other 15 you're going to win.
So, and you score the most points by either guessing correctly how many tricks you're going to win. And then if you win 3 or 4, only 3 or 4 tricks, you get the bonus.
So you will always get points for how many tricks you won, no matter what you bid.
Okay.
If your bid matches how many you got, you get a bonus of 10 points.
Okay.
Irrespective of what you bid, if you only got 3 or 4 tricks, you'll get 5. So my understanding is, if I think I'm going to win 4 tricks, I write down 4 on my piece of paper. I win exactly 4, so I get 4 points. My bid was correct, which would get me 10 points, and I get additional 5 points because I only got 3 or 4.
Okay.
We never had that happen.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I was asking, because I couldn't remember how many tricks you said. So there's no chance that both people are ever going to get 4, because you're playing 15. So only one person's potentially ever going to get that bonus. And I would imagine a lot of times nobody gets that 5-point bonus, right?
Yeah. We always ended up having between 6 and 9 tricks each.
Yeah. It's interesting with the bidding part. But I think I still like the scoring better in Fox in the Forest. I like that ability in Fox in the Forest, where if you get all the tricks, you get nothing.
Yeah.
And if you don't get any, then you get decent points out of it. I still like that, because it's not something, you're never want to get all the tricks, but then sometimes you just get stuck getting all the tricks. You kind of forget about it, like, oh crap, I'm going to win these next 2 as well. So I don't know. I don't know even if this game would see American distribution. It's a Dutch company. Maybe it will. I would play it. Just to see what it's like, but Fox in the Forest is pretty good.
Yeah.
That would be a hard one to displace for a 2-player trick taking game.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying if you didn't have Fox in the Forest, but that idea of a two-player trick taking game was interesting, and you saw Herloff in the store, I would say, yeah, it's worth a play. It's a good, solid game. The thing is, I think Fox in the Forest is better.
Right.
Not that I didn't enjoy myself, but I kind of ended up playing, saying that was fine. I think next time, if you want to play two-player trick taking game, why don't we play Fox in the Forest? Because I like the idea of trying to trick the other person and taking those extra tricks so that you can try and get the was it 2 tricks max or something like that in Fox in the Forest?
I don't remember.
And seeing it dawn on their face that, oh crap, I'm going to win all these tricks and I'm not going to get any points. This is at the very beginning, you kind of know what you're going after. So if I think, unless I'm not playing, I shouldn't say I'm not playing against you. If I'm going to win all the tricks, that's still going to get me 15 points.
Right.
And you're only going to get nothing. Even if you bid 0, you're only going to get 10 points. So there's, I think it's kind of missing that little aha moment from Fox in the Forest when you realize that you are now stuck winning the majority of tricks and you could not get any points. Here, if it looks like I'm going to win the majority of tricks, it's like, well, I didn't get the 10 points for my bonus, but I'm still getting 15 points anyway. So what do I care?
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of missing that kind of meta game that I enjoy from Fox in the Forest. But like I said, still a solid game. And one, if you're looking for a 2-player trick taking game and you can't find Fox in the Forest, this is like the also ran.
Yeah, and I'm not normally one of those that says I only need one game for, I only need one 2-player trick taking game. And I think it's fine to have a second one as long as it's good. I don't know how often it would get changed up and play, but maybe if you played Fox in the Forest a lot, you get bored, you want to try something different. But I mean, how often is that going to happen? It's not like you're going to play Fox in the Forest every day.
This almost feels like it could have been a alternate version of Fox in the Forest.
Yeah.
If you are getting tired of using the regular 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9s in Fox in the Forest, here's alternate 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9s that you can use in Fox in the Forest. Because nothing else in this game really feels different than Fox in the Forest, except it's just like they played Fox in the Forest and said, that's really cool. How can we do the same type of thing? Well, we'll just change what the special abilities are.
Yeah. And, maybe 2 years ago when Vikings were all the rage, that would have been perfect.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. I still would like to try it. I mean, just for
like
grins.
I said, it's enjoyable. If you do like 2-player trick taking games, there's not a lot of them, and you really want more, then definitely try this one out. If you already have Fox in the Forest and you're fine with just that, this one is sort of like, well, if you're looking for an alternate way to play Fox in the Forest, maybe. Right. But if you're still enjoying Fox in the Forest, I can't suggest people rush out and buy this one.
Yeah, I'm sure the price point's probably what, $20?
Sure.
Maybe. I don't know. All right. So my first bite is a game that is called the Stygian Society. This is a game that's put out, I believe it's Ape Games that puts it out, and it's designed by Kevin Wilson. Kevin Wilson did a lot of the game designs for Fantasy Flight. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Sure. Okay. So this is not a dungeon crawler. It is a dungeon crawler, I guess. Call it a tower crawler, because this is a game that is all about the cube tower. You're going to get this game and you're going to have to construct a dice tower. It's a cube tower. It's easy. They actually give you instructions on how to create it, how to put it together. And it's going to have multiple floors in it with some cutouts. And over the course of the game, you're going to be dropping cubes down into this. And some of the cubes are going to come out. Some of the cubes are going to get stuck in there. And maybe they come out next turn, 2 turns, whatever. Just depends on how they drop out. And you're going to use these cubes over the course of the game to do actions. That's the main gist of this game, the main mechanism. So this game plays 1 to 4 players. You can play it, if you play it solo, I think it says use 3 of the characters. We played it 2 players and each of us took 2 of the characters. So there's 4 basic characters in this game. You have your typical dungeon crawler tropes. You have the knight, you have a spell slinger, you have a burglar, and you have the doctor. All right. You all start out at level 0, and then every time you gain enough XP, you are going to get a new card to add to your tableau that could give you an action. Could be an action you take, could be a passive action, which you always have. It could be a reactionary sort of thing, but it's going to give you more choices to do. And you are playing this as a co-op game. You are playing this all together, all for one, and you are going to go on these. I wouldn't say they're quests because everything is in this tower. You're gonna start out with room 1, and then you're gonna go to room 2, and then if you make it past room 2 to the 3rd level, you're gonna fight a mini boss. If you defeat the mini boss, you go to level 4, level 5, and if you get up to level 6, you're gonna fight the big bad boss, the big wizard. And this game it only comes with the 4 base characters, which is fine. It comes with, I think, 4 or 5 mini bosses. I think it comes with 4 main bosses. So there's variability, but there's not a ton, which is, again, it's fine. There's expansions for it if you want to go down the expansion route. And the lower floors are going to be obviously easier than the higher floors. And what you're going to do if you're on floor 1 is you're going to put a random floor out, and it's going to tell you what type of minions are on that floor. And it has a front rank and a back rank, and you're going to place the little miniatures on there based off what the card tells you to do. And each of the different monsters has different attributes. Some of them, the front row absorbs hits before they can be hit. Some of them are resistant to magic or melee. Some of them, when you kill them, like if you take out the rat thing, I think if you kill the rat swarm, it turns into 2 rat things or something. I guess they disperse or whatever. So they each have their own little ways that they play, and then sometimes it's enhanced again based off the type of the room that you're in. Again, very very dungeon-esque, dungeon crawler type game. The players are going to have 3 different color cubes that are only for them. I think it's blue, green, and clear. The monsters or the bad guys are going to have 3 color cubes that are just for them. It's red, yellow, and black. And on my turn, I'm going to look at my choices and I'm going to say, okay, I want to do this attack. It's going to tell me on the card, okay, drop 2 blue and 1 of my choice. So I'm going to collect those cubes. And then the room is going to tell you every time a player goes, you drop a red, a black, and a yellow. And I'm going to do that on my turn. I'm going to drop it in there. Whatever cubes come out, we then separate into what is for the heroes, what is for the bad people, and we're going to look to see what we can do. The monsters almost every time are going to get to go first, and you're going to look at their cubes. And again, the room card is going to tell you. So it's a combination of what the room card tells you and what the monsters tell you. You always look to see if the monsters activate first. And the monsters might say, okay, once there's 3 red cubes in the playing field, this is going to trigger this. Or it could say if there's 2 yellows, it's going to trigger this monster, because the monsters are going to be red, yellow, and black as well. And if the red monster doesn't activate, you then look to see if the red action of the room activates. And if it doesn't, then you go to the yellow monster first, yellow room, black monster first, black room. And they're all going to do something different. Sometimes they'll put wounds on the party. Sometimes they'll increase what they call this peril track, and I'll explain that in a second. So you're going to look to see what the monsters do, and then you're going to look after they've done their thing. You're going to look to see what you can do, and of course that's going to be based off of whatever you chose at the beginning, whatever attack it was. And it's going to tell you, okay, for every 2 blue cubes that you spend, you're going to do 2 points of damage to, the monster that you chose as your target. Whatever cubes are left over, they stay there for the next person's turn. And again, they're going to look at theirs and they're going to pick their cubes that they're going to drop. And then they're always going to pick the red, the black, and the yellow, at least at the lower levels. Drop them in. Again, whatever comes out's available. Rinse and repeat. Look to see what the monsters do. Look to see what you can do. There's this little fenced-in area at the base of the tower. It's probably about an inch or 2 away from the base of the tower. And if any of the cubes come out of there and land in that fenced-in area, that's called the crypt, those count as 2 cubes. So if 1 blue cube goes in, it's actually 2 blue cubes. I didn't think it was going to happen very often, but there were times where a bunch of cubes came out and, we got 2 or 3 of them in there. If you ever get 2 cubes that come out on the same turn and land in there, then you increase your luck ability. Luck allows you to basically use that as a wild cube anytime you want. So if you're short a cube for an attack, you can reduce your luck by 1 and do that. And that's the general gist of the game. You are going to level up your XP every time you take out a monster. There were so many XP. And it starts out with you. So the XP starts at 0. And I think on the first level, you need to get to 8 XP, not a whole lot. As soon as you move it up to the 8 XP by killing some monsters, you stop, you level up immediately, meaning everyone gets a new card. And then you reset the XP back to 0 and you increase it up to a 9. So next time it's going to take 9 XP and then it'll take 10 XP. So you're always going to reset back to 0. The party health is cumulative. You can increase the maximum amount of health that you have, but the health doesn't reset in between levels. It's unless you can reduce it somehow, it's going to stay exactly where it was at. So that's kind of cool. And you can increase it, but you can't increase it a ton. And then you have this peril track, and the peril track is going to move based off of what the monsters do, the minions. Again, it's based off how their cubes come out. Some of the monsters, when they react or when they use their cubes, it'll tell you move the peril track 2 spaces, move the peril track 1 space. If it doesn't tell you specifically how much to move it, and it just does wounds on the heroes, you're still going to move it at least 1. And then if the room ends up reacting by using their cubes, it's going to go up by 2. And then at certain increments on the card, it's going to say, okay, when the peril reaches 4, this is going to happen. It could be more monsters come out. It could be wounds to the party. And then it might go 4 and 8. And generally, whenever it gets to 20, you lose. The last one we were at, the mini boss, was if you got to 15, you lose. We ended up losing on health points anyway, so it didn't matter. So that I do like that. Now, the peril will reset in between levels. So that's kind of nice. And there are cards that will allow you to manipulate the peril back down. The other thing the peril is used for is when you clear the room, kill all the monsters off, you look at what your peril is, and you decide, okay, this room or this level or this boss is going to give us 2 treasure chests. And it's your choice. Do you want to open the treasure chest, or you can ignore it and then you just don't get any treasure? Because when you flip over the treasure card, it's going to have a number on it. It's going to have a peril number. And if that peril number is the same as or less than what your peril rate ranking is at, then you have to you have to do what's on the card. And they're generally nothing good on the card. If that number is higher than what your peril is at, then there's no effect and you just get, generally, I think it's 2 treasure for every treasure chest. But some of the things will say like, well, I think the very first one we drew was a 1. So of course it was going to trigger, but all it said was basically there's nothing in this treasure chest but dirty laundry, whatever. I think it reduced our treasure setting in 2. We got 1. And then the next one was something else. And there's some in there just kind of look like, one of them says, your party has made so much noise, something along these lines. It's drawn the attention of the wizard on the 6th floor. He teleports you to the 6th floor. Take him on like right now, which is really bad if you're on like the 1st floor or the 2nd floor because you haven't had enough XP to get some good stuff. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed it because of the cube tower. I mean, let's face it, that's what this game is. It's about the cubes. It's about getting the right ones to come out, or hope you get the right ones to come out. It's how you spend it. It's all about that cube management. I don't think there's really a story to it. It's very random as far as the rooms that you pull out is all randomized. The monsters are okay. It's not an easy game. And I saw on the forum, some people said, oh, we've never lost this game. And other people said they'd never won it. I don't know how the people have always won it. I don't know if they're playing it correctly or not, or maybe they're just really, really, really good co-op players. Maybe they just math everything out on every turn. I do think that if you were going to play it all 6 levels, I think it says 45 to 60 minutes. I don't think so. Because we played 3 levels. Granted, it was our first play. The guy I was playing with was a little bit of AP. But yeah, I don't think you could get this done in an hour unless you got teleported to the 6th floor. The downside to this game is it's very much a rinse and repeat style of game. It's constantly, okay, what spell am I going to use now? Some of the things that you're going to choose, you're going to have to exhaust. So it basically, they don't reset until you level up your XP, which is, you could get it in the middle of a room. You could get it, after the room is over. Whenever you level up, it resets. But here's the interesting thing. You could level up right before you finish a room. So you turn your cards all back, you refresh them all. But then if you would use them on that last turn in the room, and then you're going to start a new room, they don't refresh until you level back up. So you could go into a whole new battle, a whole new room with some cards exhausted. It's just a matter of when you choose to use them or not use them. And you can use some of them again to in between, because they're more responsive. You could use them to reduce the peril before you open a chest. So there is some decision making, and there's some cool spells and spells for what they are. It's just, drop this many cubes and get some wild choices here or there. I really found that this game came down to managing those cubes, not only managing for your own team, but managing them for the monsters. Because like I played the doctor, and one of my skills was I could heal the party, but for every extra clear cube I spent out of ours, I could remove a cube of my choice of theirs. And so you're looking, so what's going to likely trigger next for the monsters? Okay, this is the worst thing that could happen. So let's take a red cube off of it. But again, every turn you're dropping generally a red, a black, and a yellow for the monsters. So now there's only ever 10 cubes of any one color. And once they're gone, if they're on the field or if they're in the tower, you just don't get to drop anymore. And if you can't drop them for the heroes, you just don't get to drop them. If you can't drop them for the monsters, there's a penalty. And I want to say, I don't know if it does a hit to the party or if it raises the peril. We didn't get to that point, but I do know there is a penalty for that as well. It doesn't. We didn't have it happen ever either way, just because generally they trigger off. But I guess in theory you get a few of them stuck up in there. And then there are some things on some of the rooms where if it gets to a certain peril level, you're taking you have to take one of each of the player color cubes and stick them on that card, so they're out of play. You don't get them back till that room is done. And the other last thing I'll say for this is there are like 4 different conditions or statuses. There's like weakened and stricken, and I don't know what the other 2 are. But if you get them based off certain monsters or whatever, you stick them next to your player, and then it might say on the rat card, the active player has been stricken twice. So you randomly take these you draw 2 chits out of a cup, and you put them on there. They're going to be either green, blue, or clear. And then that card is going to tell you, okay, at the start of your next player, like when it comes back to this particular character, for every chit you have on there. So if I have a green and a blue, I might have to remove 2 green and blue, or a green and a blue, out of the field before I get to take my turn, if they're out there. It may say that if during my turn, if I've got a green and a blue, then the green equals a red, the blue equals a yellow. I have to drop an extra red and an extra yellow into the tower for the monsters. And each one of them does something different. The only way you get rid of those things is to then, at the end of your turn, and you can't do it on the first turn you get it, you have to wait till it comes back around to you. But at the end of your turn, you can remove cubes out of the field to then remove those, which again is just punishing you more because it's eating up cubes. But managing the enemy cubes, and of course managing your own cubes, is really, call it what you want: hand management, resource management, cube management. But that's what this game comes down to. I have enjoyed it. I don't think I'd play it solo. I think if I play it to where I've played all the mini bosses and all the wizards at least once, I don't know how much I would ever go back to it. Because it, like I said, it can get a little samey. It's repetitive, but it's enjoyable. I'm okay with it. So that is the Stygian Society by Ape Games.
Yeah, I want to play your copy of it. I remember when it came out in my local game store a couple months ago. I looked at it and kind of hummed and hawed. I did see that at that time there was already 2 or 3 expansions for the game.
I think there's 2.
And I kind of looked at that and thought, if they're coming out with expansions this quickly, is this a game that needs expansions right away? So I didn't know much about it, so I didn't bother picking it up. So like I said, I do want to try your copy, but I don't know whether I'd want to purchase it, but I do want to try it because it sounds like a cool gimmick or whatever with it, the cube tower.
I mean, if I played it at a convention and I played it, once, twice, I don't think I'd run out and buy it. I think I will have, I know what it's about or whatever.
Yeah.
But since I own it, like I said, if I play through and get through the different mini bosses and the different wizards, then I think I definitely got my money out of it, and that'd probably be the end of it for me.
So yeah, hold on to it for a while.
No, it's not going anywhere.
Okay, so my second game is a roll and write game called Floor Plan. This is put up by Deepwater Games, designed by Merrick Tuppy. I think it's Tuppy. And with a name like Floor Plan, you think I'm doing blueprints for a house, and that's exactly what this game is. So everybody gets a piece of paper that's got a grid on it that looks like a blueprint paper. And you each round, one person is going to roll 2 dice, and everybody uses the same pair of dice. So if I roll 2 or 3, everybody at the table is using that 2 and 3. When you roll the 2 dice, you're going to be either picking to use them as a pair, and you're going to draw a box on your sheet that's going to be that many. So if I roll 2 or 3, I have to draw a box on my blueprints that's 2 by 3 squares big. You then look at what the 2 and 3 can give you. It could be that the 2 is a kitchen and 3 is a bedroom, for example. So then you get to decide what that room is going to be. Is it going to be a bedroom, or is it going to be whatever? So bedroom or kitchen, whatever it is. So whatever the 2 represents, whatever the 3 represents, that is the possible room that 2 by 3 square could be. If you decide not to build a room, you're going to use each die individually for whatever accessories that it gives you. So 2s could be windows, 3 could be doors. I know 6s are stones, things like that. So if you take the 2 and 3 and it's windows and doors, and you have to draw 2 windows and 3 doors. And every time, doors will always be 3, and you always have to draw 3 doors. At the beginning of the game, there's going to be 3 cards that are laid out in the beginning of the table: 1 design, 1 layout, and 1, I forget what the third one is. And they're just going to have how you're going to be scoring. So it could be, and each one is going to have 2 different sections on it. It could be draw a kitchen and a living room adjacent to each other that share 4 windows, for example. So you're trying to build these rooms to have 4 windows in between. As soon as you have that, you mark it down on your sheet of paper of how many points that's worth. We'll say, for that, it's going to be worth 4 points. So the 3 cards are going to have 2 of these kind of scoring things on them. The last card's always going to be, at the end of the game, there's going to be a way to score points. For every room that has an outside door, score a point, that type of thing. So you're going to be going around and around until someone has either filled up all of their scoring things. So each person has 6 scoring markers, not including the end of game one. And you say, well, if you have 6, but only 5 ways to score points, it's because you can double up on some of them, but they have to be completely independent of each other. So if one of them says have a deck outside adjacent to 2 rooms, you can score that twice, but it has to be a completely separate deck and completely separate rooms. So you couldn't have deck on one side, 2 rooms in the middle, and deck on the other side to say this deck with these rooms, and then the same rooms with this other deck doesn't count. You have to have another complete set to score it. So that's going to end the game when someone has got written all 6, or if when you roll the die, one of the players can't do anything. You can't place a new room. You can't place any of the accessories. Then the game is over. Then you go to end of scoring. The game lasts 20 minutes, half an hour, and it's definitely a lot more thinky than I found, a lot more thinky than other games, because you are trying to work out all the different ways to score. And when Lella and I played this, we both got ourselves into traps where we miscalculated, because you're like, okay, well, one of them says I need a tree and then a pool next to a deck. And the pool has to be, basically, a pool is, if you draw stones, if the stones encircle an area outside, whatever encircles is a pool. It automatically fills with water. So you draw your tree here, then you draw your pool of, let's say, it's got to have 8 water spaces in it next to a deck that has to be at least 10. Oh, damn. I put that room there. Now I can't draw 10 decking things. So you have to use the dice that are rolled, but then you're trying to think long term of where you need to place everything. By the end of it, our houses were absolutely. I had a courtyard surrounded by closets, but the closets weren't connected to the house by any by any doors. You have to go outside into the courtroom to get into your closets. You kind of end up with very funny houses that way. I enjoyed it. It's I've kind of gotten tired of roll and write games. There's another roll and write game I got as well called Alhambra Roll and Write, which I'll talk about some other time. This one I actually enjoyed because it was giving you lots of things to think about. And the plans that I had for my house when I originally sat down, my house looked nothing like that because you have to go with what's rolled. Then you quite often you're just trying to throw things in different places that I really need a tree here, and tree takes up 9 squares, but I have to draw 6 stones whenever you take the stone ones. Well, I only need 3 stones to complete off my pool, so I'll throw 1 stone over here and 1 stone over here and 1 stone over there. I could see that it would get, if you want something that looks perfect, this is not the game for you because it's gonna look like a mess at the end. But I enjoyed it, and both Ella and I were laughing through the game just of how poorly our designs happened. We got pieces of decking next to pools with trees all over the place, and we had like 3 bedrooms and no kitchens, and it was just the one washroom is off the living room. It was just it was a lot of fun. Like I said, I enjoyed it. It's not like a game that I'm going to say you must rush out and buy, but it's easy to explain to people because people understand about building houses. Mm-hmm. Very easy to explain doors in rooms and what windows do and what trees do and what decking does. Like people can visualize what they're building, which I think is makes the game easier to explain to people because it's not like you're talking of wizards or you're trying to make this combination to cast this spell. No, you are building a bathroom. Your bathroom's 2 by 3 squares, so draw it on your blueprint. So I like that the theme was very approachable and very understandable. There is a lot of randomness to it, and we ended the game because Lala couldn't fit in whatever the role was. She couldn't build a room that was that big, and she didn't have room for the accessories that you had to add. The rules do leave a bit to be desired because some of the phraseology is maybe not as clear as it could be on the scoring cards. For example, a couple of scoring cards have the arrangement. You have to have 3 arrangements of furnishings that are non-identical in 3 separate rooms. You're kind of going, wait, what the hell does that mean? Like, what's an arrangement of furnishings? Well, furnishings are, if you roll like, I think it's a 4 or 5, that what you're drawing is furnishings, but you can place them wherever you want. And an arrangement is 3 or more furnishings that are connected both orthogonally and adjacent, or orthogonally and diagonal, or not diagonal, I can't remember. And even if they have to be completely different from everything else. So if you had like an L shape that points to the left is identical to one that points to the right because it's just a rotation. So that doesn't count. It has to be a unique one. So kind of like rules like that, when you kind of have to read it going, oh, okay, I understand what they're saying. This is so some of them weren't as straightforward as draw a room that's 2 by 3 spaces. Other than that, fairly easy game to grasp. Like I said, 20 minutes, half an hour, you'll be done. Again, it's one of these games that plays 1 to 99 because it doesn't matter what the other person does. And you do get some bonuses. As you score things, you get bonuses for each thing that you score. So on your little board, whenever you score something, you have your 6 squares you can write it in. Well, each square gives you a different bonus. So you get to write down which one you're going to score. So if I score the 4.1, I can put it in the first box, or I can put it in the 4th box as long as it's empty, because the first box and 4th box will both give me different bonuses. So which bonus do I really, really want? Well, that's where I'm going to put my score and then hopefully be able to use that one-time bonus. So I enjoyed it. Like I said, this one I think has pretty much flown under the radar. It's called Floor Plan by Deepwater Games. If you're looking for an approachable roll and write, it's definitely got some thinking to it, and one that I enjoyed. Check it out. Floor Plan.
Yeah, Amy might like that one because she likes Welcome To, And that, I mean, this one sounds like it's going to be one that can easily, like you said, people can grasp what it is you're doing. So yeah, I have to look into that one. Her family might like that one too.
Yep.
So all right. So I think what we'll do is we'll do a kind of a lightning round of a look back at some of the games we talked about. Oh, I don't know, 2 years ago. It was,
Might even be 3 years ago.
yeah, it's been a while, but these are ones that we played at a Dice Tower Con. I don't know, at least 2 years ago. Might have been 3 years ago, because I don't think we've talked about them since then, which maybe means we haven't played them. I know one of them for sure we both have played since then. I don't know if you've played any of the other ones or not, but not going to spend a ton of time on them. We'll give you kind of the high overview of what they were and let you know if we played them again, if we're interested in playing them again, have we totally forgotten about them, and kind of go from there. So the first one is a game called Let's Make a Bus Route. Now, Graeme just talked about floor plan, which is kind of a roll and write. This is a flip and write. So this is a Japanese, I don't know if it's Japanime product, but it's Japanese designer, Japanese publisher. And when it came out that year, it was a hot commodity. I mean, it was like 3 copies in the US or whatever. I think, and people were paying way more than what they probably should have for this game. It's like $100, I think.
It was $90 for a flip and write game.
Yeah. And I think this was Mike Parkinson, who was so excited that he had this game, wanted to play it, and he was just like raving about it. So we sat down, we played it. And it's a very simple game. It is one where you are, each player has a specific color, I guess, assigned. Well, not really a color. They have their own player board. And the player boards are all different from the standpoint of, over the course of the game, you're going to be flipping cards. And I think there's 2 colors or 2 cards of every color, and there may be 6 different colors in the deck. And you're going to play, I don't know if that's the entire game or if you're going to play multiple rounds. I think that's the entire game, though, isn't it? You just play it once through the deck.
I think it is once through the deck.
Yeah. So, and I think I want to say there's 2 cards for every color, but every player, their player board is going to tell them what that color does, and they're all going to be different. So if you flip over a red card, I might have to draw 2 straight lines. Graeme might have to draw 1 straight line, and then he has to turn 1 time. And like I said, everyone's going to be different for every different color. There's going to be a central playing board that everyone's going to share, and everyone's going to take their color marker and they're going to pick their starting spot. And there's a little bit of, I think there's 2 places you can choose from. And then everyone's going to have a secret kind of scoring card where if their bus route makes it to these 3 locations, they'll score extra points. Other than that, everything else is common knowledge. There's like 2 common scoring cards. And then there are scoring boxes on your player board that you're going to tick off based off of passengers you're picking up. There's elderly, there's workers, there's students, and they all want to go somewhere different. So you're trying to pick them up and then end up at that location somewhere to drop them off to get victory points. And other than that, so you're flipping the cards. It's going to tell you kind of how you have to draw your route. The only real rules are you can never like double back on your own route, and you can't what the hell is it? It's can't double back on your own. But you can't go to the same location twice.
I thought there's also a limit to how many bus routes could be in one street.
Well, there might be a limit on how many in one street, but if you draw your route in the same spot as someone else's route, what you then do is you create traffic. You have to scratch off one of the little traffic markers.
That's right. Yeah.
And at the end of the game, whoever has created the most traffic gets negative points. And then there's also something else where you can take negative points if you choose to not do your route, or you can't do your route exactly. You can tick off a little box, and if you tick it off 3 times, you get -3 points. There's, it's very much like a roll and write, where it gives you a little bit of mitigation to what you can't do. It might penalize you at the end. It's a pretty straightforward game. I mean, to me, it was fine. I didn't understand what all the rage was about. It didn't do anything like to me that made me definitely not want to run out and buy it, but I would play it again. But I'm not. I guess I'm not as big as fan as a lot of people are for it. Did you remember playing this game?
Oh, I do remember playing it. Because Mike and I played it just ourselves first, and then we caught up with you, and you played it with us. And I enjoyed it. I think if it was at a reasonable price at the con, it might be something that I pick up. But at the cost that it was like, forget, I'm not going to pay that much for that game. I think for me, the biggest plus for it was not only is everybody using the same card, but everybody's using the same player board, the main board, I should say, for actually drawing the
Right.
routes. You are actually, everybody's drawing on the same board, which I thought was an interesting idea. As opposed to just having everybody work on their own board, and it's very non-interactive. This is, like Dean was saying, you get penalized for using someone else's route by causing the traffic, and you don't want to create too much traffic, but sometimes it's necessary to do it. So I did like that aspect of it. I don't think I've seen another flip and write or roll and write game that does that.
Yeah, you're right. From that standpoint, it's definitely not solo, or it's not multiplayer solitaire. And now that you talk about it, I do like that from the aspect of it's easier because everyone's going to do their turn separately. So we're not all drawing at the same time, which is nice. It's a lot easier to police people in that style of game because there are a lot of times I'll play, like a welcome to or whatever. And at the end of the game, like, oh, I have 150 points. Like, how in the hell did you get 100? Because you can't watch what everyone's doing. So you don't know if they're, being honest or not when you're doing it. This one, because everyone, Graham's going to go, then I'm going to go. And you can see exactly what they're drawing out there on the board. And you can say, oh, no, that's not a valid move or whatever. Or, okay, well, you create a traffic, mark it off on your board. So, yeah, like I said, it's not a bad game. I mean, I'm not a huge roll and write, flip and write fan. But I guess for me, it's not worth, because it still goes for $100 in the aftermarket.
Yeah.
And I think they even had a kind of a small release here in the United States in the last year or so. But on the aftermarket on BGG, it's still expensive. And I don't know why, because there's nothing to the game other than dry erase boards and 24 cards.
It's an import.
Yeah.
It's Tashi and Tashi.
It's one of them. Yeah.
I think
Sashi.
So. Sorry, Sashi and Sashi game. I think it was. And again, they're imports, so they just the fact that it's an import, it makes it more expensive. And that's one of the main reasons why I've never picked it up. It's like, I enjoy it. I thought it was novel, but I'm not going to be paying $90 for a flip and write game.
Right.
So yeah, it's a one that I remember playing, and if I ran into Mike again and he had it, I would definitely play it. Saw it at a con. I think it's a great filler, but it's just not one that I'm going to be adding to my collection.
Yeah, and it plays 30 minutes most. So that's another plus for it. All right, so that was Let's Make a Bus Route. How about Dragon's Gate College? Now, I only have played it once. I think you played it more than that because you did a review on it, right?
I did do a review on it.
Do you remember doing a review on it?
I remember doing a review on it. Do I remember? Okay. So Dean and I said we're going to do this. So I had to go back and make notes on all the games to refresh my memory. That's how much I remember Dragon's Gate College. So Dragon's Gate College is a dice drafting game and dice placement game. So there are several action spaces around the board. One person's going to roll all the dice, put them in like a central area, and then on your turn, you're going to be drafting dice. The default dice that come with the kind of the basic dice are black. But other people have their own color dice, which can be added to the pool through one of these actions. And if someone uses, so let's say I'm the first person to get one of my dice in there and I'm blue. So all the black dice are going to be rolled plus my blue die. If someone drafts my blue die, they get to take the action with the blue die, but I also get to take an action because they use my die. If I use my own die, I only get one action. So yes, you may want other people to use your dice, or you may want to use your own dice. It just kind of increases the die pool. You're going to be getting, it has to do with a magic school. So you're a bunch of students trying to learn this stuff. There's a little dungeon kind of track that you can go through. There are resources you're going to be getting. There's going to be people you can hire, learn new spells and all that. And it's just going to be placing your dice in a different area. And of course, to get this resource, you have to place a 2 or a 3. To go in the dungeon, you have to place, a 4 or 5 or higher than what you currently have down there. And at the end of the game, you're going to be scoring points for collecting the different resources and different spells and how far you are along the different tracks. The big selling point for this is the dice drafting, dice placement, with being able to increase the size of the dice pool by getting and placing your own dice in there. I don't think it was enough to make this game stand out for my plays. Now, it's funny because when I got this game around the same time that we went to Dice Tower, I think I actually got it at Dice Tower. So I played it at Dice Tower, played it 4 or 5 more times after that, and never played it again since. Because I thought it was a fine game, just it didn't stand out. I didn't, when I explain the theme, it sounds like a lot of other games when you're student wizards competing to, be the best student. I mean, it's pretty typical theming. And I do like dice roll, like the idea of dice drafting with dice placement, but that was kind of it. Like, it didn't stand out, even with the adding dice to the pool. And if someone uses yours, again, it was a nifty idea, but it became very, as you're talking about the Stygian Society, it becomes very repetitive because you have to be doing the different things around the board. So it's just, okay, roll. I go here, you go there, I go here, I go in the dungeon. Okay, next roll, I go here, you go there, I go here, you go in the dungeon. It's just everybody's doing the same thing. It's just who gets to choose first and what dice are available. So like I said, the game was fine, but obviously it hasn't stood out because once I finished the review, I'd never played the game again. And it's sitting on my shelf in the other room. And that when we do the purge, that will most likely hit my purge pile pretty quickly. Because the first time I went through my games, I kind of went, well, I remember that. I remember liking it. But now doing this, it's like, well, it wasn't that great a game. It was a good game in a sea of good games. It didn't stand out.
Yeah, this one, for me, I only played it the one time, and I would say that forgettable would be the word I would use for it. I was excited about playing it because it was an NKSN game, and they had just come out with something else that was fairly decent. I can't remember what it was.
Well, they were showing off Teotihuacan at Dice Tower.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah.
And thematically, I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. Yeah, wizards and students, and you're hiring wizards, blah, blah, blah. And I like dice drafting. And I vaguely, as you're talking about it, I can kind of see the board. And I remember there being a player board. And weren't you covering stuff up on the player board that would unlock other stuff? Or I somehow remember like being a grid on the player board, but I don't remember. I could be totally making that up as well. Like I said, it was pretty forgettable for a game that thematically I thought I would like, and for mechanisms that I do enjoy. But again, I only played it the one time, so maybe if I played it more, I would have enjoyed it more, or maybe remembered more about it. But yeah, it's not one that I ever purchased. And there was something about it when we played, I just thought, I don't know, maybe it was just we were just worn out from the con, but I thought there was an issue we had with it when we played it that about something, but I don't remember. But anyways, I'm not ever going to own this game. I'm probably not ever going to play it again.
But you're right. Sorry, you have a player board that represents your
school, whatever.
Well, whatever. I forget what they're called, like dorm or whatever.
Yeah.
And you were getting pieces to fill up your dorm and getting the right students at the right time. And there were things you had to send students on, and they had to be the right levels of certain spell. Like this person had to be really high in red and blue, but they didn't need green. So you're trying to manipulate the people that you had. And then the teachers that you hired would modify what the students that you had to go on these kind of quests to get end of game scoring. But yeah, it's like stuff you've seen before with a theme that was pretty forgettable, with a mechanism that was more interesting on paper than it worked out to be.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing of getting the extra actions if someone else uses your dice, that's cool. But at the same time, that's going to be a last resort for one of your opponents to do, knowing they're going to give you more actions. So,
yeah.
All right. So that was Dragon's Gate College by NKSN, whoever.
NSKN.
All right. And then another game that we played there, and I don't know if this was the first time we played it. Maybe it was, probably was. But I know I've played it a bunch since then. I'm sure you have as well. And that was Welcome To. Welcome To, we already talked about flipping rights, we're not going to belabor because we've talked about this game a lot on the podcast. You're kind of creating your own little subdivision, your own little town. You're flipping cards, and you're going to get a choice of those 3 cards, which ones you want to use. And it's another where you're filling in numbers from, well, you can fill them in any order you want, but hopefully you're going from lowest to highest. And if you can make a complete run of them, even better, depending on how big the neighborhood is. But you can put fences in there and pools and trees and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, like any other roll and write, gives you a chance to, if you can't use any card, you have a couple of chances to take some passes on there. And then you're going to score at the end of the game based off of how many, on the one street, depending on how many trees you have, is going to give you so many points, how many pools you have. And then subdivisions are kind of not subdivisions, but subplots within the street. Because you're going to have these architect cards that if you get three houses together, separated, or like three houses separated by a fence. I don't even know if they have to be in a row. You just need 3 groups of 3 houses for like one architect card, and you're going to separate the house up by putting fences in between them. It's pretty straightforward. It's really easy for the most part to explain to new people, new gamers, and it's one that sees quite a bit of play, at least from my end.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite flip and write game. Not my favorite roll and write, but it's definitely my favorite flip and write.
Yeah.
It's a good solid one. I've played it many times since I bought it. Yeah, and I think it was at this Dice Tower Con that this is the first time I played, and I played it many times a year since. So this one has definitely held up.
All right. So that's going to tell you, we got 2 more that we played or that we talked about on that episode. One is called The Sanctuary: Endangered Species. Now, don't get this confused with, there's a game called Endangered, which was I think it was a US publisher, but it came out in the US. It was widely distributed. I think it was a Kickstarter, has the tiger's face on the front cover. That is not this game. This game is almost a pure white cover with some animals on it. It's a European design, I think a Polish company maybe.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it ever came to the US. I don't think it did.
And
I think
this was on my Essen list.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Yeah. And so this is it's thematically, you are kind of running a zoo, I will say. Yeah. Everyone has a player board, and at the beginning of the game, each person takes there's 4 different colors, and each person is going to take an animal in a different color group. So you're going to have 1 green, 1 red, 1 yellow, 1 brown. Doesn't matter what the animals are. They're just animals. And it's going to be like on a little hexagon shit. And it's going to be numbered 1 through 8. And you're going to use that as a basically a counter. Whenever you increase your animal count, you're just going to turn it on your player board. And then your player board is going to have some storehouses, going to have a warehouse, it's going to have a little land area where you can add lakes and trees and rocks and whatever. And then that's what each person is going to have in front of them. It's pretty much a worker placement game. You're going to be using your workers, and you're going to place them out on cards that you're going to deal out. But everything else is going to be done on your player board. And it's pretty standard. Increase animal count, you put cubes in the different storehouses. You can make the storehouses better by getting tiles, which will increase their scoring at the end of the game. And then everything you put out there, the lakes and the trees, are going to give you scoring points at the end. Where the cool part of the game comes to is, I want to say everyone's going to get like,
you get 2 meeples.
You get 2 meeples. Do you get like, I'm trying to think, do we have a hand of cards? I think you have a hand of cards, or do you just deal them out from the deck?
So you deal them out on the table.
Yeah.
And depending on how many players there are, that's going to determine how many cards are dealt out.
Yeah. So they're going to be dealt out, and then each player is going to have 2 workers they can place out there, and you have to place your worker on a main action. So the card's going to have a top and a bottom. It's going to have a main action at the top, and it's going to have a secondary action at the bottom. So you're going to place your meeple out there onto a main action, and there's a few rules. You can't place a meeple next, I think, to another, directly adjacent to another one.
So you can. So the idea of this game is the meeple can see the other 2 cards on either side of it. It has to be able to see at least one other card. So
right.
So if you lay out the cards,
so as long as you don't, you just can't box them in on both sides.
Yes.
Yeah. And you could potentially see, so when you get your meeples out there on the main actions, you're going to see how far you can see, because you could see farther than one card. You can basically see up until where there's another meeple. So if I have mine out and there's 2 cards before Graeme has a meeple, I can actually see both of those secondary actions from what I understand. And then there's some walls that'll block stuff, and there's a couple other, rules as far as where exactly you can place. I think you have to be able to place your meeple where you can at least see one thing. You can't purposely place it where you can't see anything. But to me, that's the cool part. It's the jockeying for the position of, do I can be mean and place mine here. So if Graham's got a meeple and he's got 2 open cards to the left and right, and I know where he really wants that he wants that secondary action to the one to the left of him, as long as I'm able to place my meeple there because the card to the left of the one I'm placing on is available, then I can block him out from seeing mine, or from seeing the one that he really wants. So there's some strategy there. There's definitely a little bit of sticking it to your neighbor on that one. But at the same time, sometimes it just gets so hard because yes, there's going to be by the time you get done with the game, there's going to be a ton of cards out there. It's a table hog of a game with the cards, and generally it kind of ends up like in a big oval kind of shape. But at certain points in time in the game, certain main actions, there's only a few of them out there, and they become very competitive to be able to get to them, because you'll need them for certain things, or the secondary actions become very crucial for what you want to be able to score. And so those become kind of a first come first serve, and a real fight to be able to get the ones that you want. I enjoy like I said, we only played it once. I've never seen the game since then. I definitely would play this game again. And if I saw it like for really cheap in the aftermarket, I'd probably pick it up, because I do think to me, I don't think I've ever played another game with that whole secondary action, like what I can see, or that I don't think I've ever seen that replicated anywhere.
Okay, I have, and that's why I would not go back and buy this game.
Okay, so where'd you see that at?
So there's a game from Emperor S4 called Trials of the Temple that used that identical.
Did we play that one?
I played it an awful lot. I don't know if I played it with you.
I know I played some of their games online with you, but okay, go ahead.
So Trial of the Temple is you lay out cards in a circle. And again, the cards are split into an upper and a lower, like a main action and a secondary action. And it's exactly the same thing. Everybody's got 2 meeples. You put your meeple on the main action, and whichever ones on the cards that are free on either side of you that have the secondary actions, you can take. Same rule of you can't walk someone in. There is a day-night piece to the card, which is like the wall in Sanctuary that, again, you can't see past it. So it's exactly the same type of thing, but it is a simpler game and it's a faster game. But it uses, if that mechanism sounds interesting to you, not only is the Sanctuary endangered species difficult to find in North America, it's more that the game that's beyond that is more complex than Trials of the Temple. Trials of the Temple is kind of an engine building game where you are using these cards to get resources, to trigger off other things, to get more resources, to trigger off other things, to get some points. I liked it. Again, I did a review of it. I believe I did a review for the Dice Tower, but I really like that mechanism. I thought Trials of the Temple did it in a much cleaner way than the Sanctuary did.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to look to see. I did not play this one. I must have played a different one with you. It was the same company.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll have to check that one out, because I do like that mechanism for sure. So, okay. So that was the Sanctuary Endangered Species by, I'm not sure what company it was. I think it was a Polish company.
Cube Factory of Ideas.
There you go. Very catchy. All right. So the last one that we played, or the last one we're going to talk about, is called Loot Island.
Yeah.
So I got this game before Dice Tower Con. Again, I got it because it was being published by What's Your Game.
Yeah.
What's Your Game generally puts out some pretty good games, and you're generally pretty meaty. So I got this one. I knew it wasn't going to be a heavy game, but I thought, okay, well, if they're putting it out, it's probably going to be pretty good. I've only played it the one time. I will say that we played it late at night, probably later than I normally stay up. And I want to say we played it at 5 players. So it plays up to 5 players. And it was me, you, it was AJ, it It was the guy from the Panda podcast, and I want to say maybe there's one more person. I don't remember if Eric played with us or someone else.
Yeah, I don't
Pretty sure it
remember.
was a full complement. And I think it was just a combination of full complement, first time playing, late at night, and maybe just the personalities involved. I didn't have a great time playing the game.
It's a semi co-op.
Well, yes. Yeah, it is. But I mean, it's barely a semi co-op.
You have to get other people to help you discover the treasure, or you can't do it by yourself.
Right. But you don't ever have to like try to strike deals. You can just kind of read what people are doing and hedge your bets.
Yes, but you could be left out high to dry because you have cards for that area, for that place to go to, or that's where your marker is. That's where you start playing the cards. And if no one else joins you, oh look, everybody else gets treasures. I get nothing because no one else helped me out at my spot.
Yeah, but at the same time, I guess that would be the downside or the strategy of, do you want to be the first person placing cards in that landing area?
Yeah, which I understand from the design point of view. So we should, it's about finding treasure. And there are a bunch of landing spots around an island. And everybody has a marker, which represents your ship. And you can place your marker on one of the landing points and you can start playing cards there. The cards all have to be the same color and they have to be ascending in order. Once everybody's finished putting their marker down and playing cards, you then evaluate each landing zone. And if there are 6 or more cards, then treasure is found. And you flip over cards and there's like a big treasure and a small treasure, or certain, whatever it is, whoever is the first one there gets first pick of it. So if you see that there is going to be treasure, let's say there's already 5 cards, and there's already 2 people there. Yes, you can put your thing on top to make sure that there are 6 cards. So the treasure will be found, but you're going to be the last person to pick.
Yeah. So when you're besides the landing areas, there's also these small islands out there as well, where you can discard 2 cards out of your hand that are same color, and you can go to one of these small islands. So they're going to give you a special ability for that turn. So that's also another choice. But the landing areas, so when I told Graeme, well, that's the strategy of, do you want to be the first person playing cards in there, not knowing if anyone else is going to follow? Well, that's the trade-off. If you're the first person to place cards there, then you're the first compass to go in there, which means you're going to get the first pick of the treasure, if treasure is end up being found. So the amount of cards needed to be played in a particular landing area is based on the player count. A 5-player game has got to be 6 cards. Now, there are some cards that will count as double. They'll have a little icon that says ×2. So they'll actually count as 2 cards instead of 1. And then there are other cards that have a treasure chest on them, which will give you extra treasure. So on each side of the board, there's 2 landing areas. Only one side of the board's ever going to be searched on any given turn, and that depends on where the ship is at. So of those 2 landing areas on that side of the board, whichever landing area has more cards in its tableau is going to be the big loot, I think it's called. So it's going to get 2 treasure cards, and plus however many cards or however many treasure icons are on the cards being played. So it's going to get a minimum of 2, and then it could get another 1, could get another 2, good another 3, depends on what's played in the tableau. And then again, as Graeme said, you're going to flip out all the treasure cards. Whoever's got the compass on the bottom of the stack is going to pick first. And it could be that it's going to be uneven. Maybe the 2 compasses get 2 treasures. You may, or maybe they get 2. You only get 1 because there's only 5 treasures out there, whatever the case may be. The small loot, the other landing area, it doesn't get any treasure except for the icons that are on those cards. So it could be kind of bad if you're not the one on the bottom and there's only 1 card out there that ends up with a treasure icon on it, because only that person on the bottom isn't going to get it. So part of it is hedging your bets. Part of it is trying to be the first one in. There are things like if you go to the small islands, you can move your compass from one area to another area. And I think there's maybe even one that lets you put it on the, I can't remember if the one lets you put it on the bottom, maybe.
There was some way to jump to the bottom. I don't remember whether it was the small island or something else you had.
there's another one that if you go to it, lets you move the ship. So you could let people put their stuff out there. And they'll say, I'm going to go here. I'm going to move the ship. It's not even going to stay there. It's going to go to the other landing areas on the other side of the board. So those areas there where all those cards are at are not going to score that turn. Now, if the landing areas don't score because there's no ship there, the cards are going to stay out there. The compasses are going to stay out there. But it doesn't mean, I think it's played over 5 rounds. I think it's played 5 rounds. So potentially, if no one ever moves a ship, it's only going to do each side once and then one extra side. But people are probably going to manipulate that ship and move it around because they want to get to their scoring areas. You could, in theory, if you know for sure, hey, I got a lot of cards I'm going to put here on this landing area, you could go to that small island yourself and flip the tile that has the move the ship and just flip it and not move the ship. But then it locks everyone else out from doing it. Because whenever you do those small islands, you flip the tiles and then they're done for that turn. I guess, I don't know if it's a great game or not. Maybe it's a good game. I do want to play it again because even looking at it today and kind of looking back at the game, I think that it just wasn't, I think it was a bad timing issue more for this game than anything else. Because looking at it, I'm like, I kind of like that. Well, I kind of like that. I mean, I know you're not a big semi co-op, but again, it's not like it's a hidden trade or sort of thing. No. Yes, it's co-op in the fact, I mean, but you don't have, I mean, in theory, if you get a good run of cards, you don't need anyone's help.
Yes, but if you don't have a good run of cards, you could technically go through the entire game with not getting any treasure.
That'd be pretty difficult to do, I think.
Or just get one treasure. Like there's possibilities that you can go turn for a couple turns in a row with essentially not finding any treasure because there's either the ship or you don't have the cards or you can't. Like
but think of it this way though. If for every treasure you get, generally you get those curse cubes. And the curse cubes are detrimental at the end of the game because if you have a chance to get rid of curse cubes during the game by certain actions and certain treasures cards or whatever. But then the treasure cards you collect may have like, okay, you get 2 curse cubes. At the end of the game, before I think it's before you can even get to the healer card, if anyone has 13 or more curse cubes, they're eliminated. They're done. So sometimes now granted, you're going to score points based on the treasure by set collection and stuff like that. But for every treasure you get, you're probably getting curse cubes. And then once you tally up your points, you have your healer card, and then you got to basically pay in victory points or in coins to get for every other curse cube. So that's going to lower your score as well. So I don't know. I mean, I've played it once. I like the idea of it. I think in the right setting, the right group, it would be fun to play. Because it's going to be a little bit of that. Oh, I can't believe you didn't. Come on, no one's got, no one's got the cards that can help me. But then again, it's not just because they don't want to help you. They may not have cards that are high enough because you have to play those cards in ascending order. And I think some of the cards it has to be ascending or the same card. So if it's a 6, it's got to be 6 or higher. And the ones have a special ability to them. You can slide them in and they have some special powers to them. So sometimes it's out of people's hands.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that the cards don't wipe on the beaches that aren't being affected. But then again, it also locks in your compasses, but you do have the ability to move your compasses by going to the small island. So there is some mitigating factors. I don't know. I would like to play it not at like 1 o'clock in the morning and with less annoying people.
Yeah. When I first saw Loot Island come up saying, oh, this is the new team from What's Your Game, I thought, oh, great. I've liked almost everything else What's Your Game has put out. I'm looking forward to it. Then I saw the weight of it and I started reading the rules going, I don't think I'm going to like this game. I was glad we got a chance to play. I think I probably even picked to play it at Dice Tower Con because I knew I wanted to play it. And I can say I'm glad I played it at Dice Tower Con because it did not sit well for me. And I'm glad I haven't picked this game up. Even if you suggested at a next con, I'd be like, I'm not so sure I'd even want to play it at a con. It's definitely not my style of game. That not that you have no control over what happens to you, but generally you have to get someone else to buy in to where you're going. And it could be that they don't want to because they don't want you to win. or like you said, they maybe that just don't have the cards. And I don't like games where you could go multiple rounds in a row and not essentially be part of the action. Because if you guys are, let's say you're playing with 4 players, let's say 3 of you all have blue cards. I have no blue cards. You guys putting all your blue cards on the other side of the island. I can't do anything about that. So I'll just be sitting here playing my red and yellow cards over here because I can't do anything.
Well,
Yes,
but
yeah.
I think the downside to, so say 3 people have blue cards, they're all playing blue cards, or 4 people. Unless a lot of those blue cards have treasure chests on them, I mean, yeah, they may get the big loot, so they get 2 treasures. But if there's 4 people there, it becomes a point of,
yes, but then you 4 people are playing for the treasure at that area. I'm not playing for anything on my side of the board.
But what I'm saying is that, so after the 3rd compass is there, or sometimes even after the 2nd compass is there, how willing, even if I have blue cards, how willing am I to throw down cards to be the 3rd person in to pick? Because even if, let's say, okay, say there's 6 cards, so we're going to get the big loot. It's obvious we're going to get the big loot on this one. And let's say there's 1 treasure token out there. So now we're at 3 treasures. Well, if the only cards I can play, yes, they're higher, they're the same number, but mine have treasure tokens on them, why would I want to waste them on that one to be the 3rd person picking in the treasure?
Yeah. But that I agree with you, but then you are part of that game. I with no blue cards am not. And you with
but you're still working on other beaches, on other landings.
But if the boat's on your side and I can't contribute to where or that's the only other thing I can do. It's like I can't do anything on my side without someone else helping me.
Well, so you could move the boat. You could also move I think being able to move your compass, you could theoretically move your compass to a beach that you know was going to trigger and score. Yeah, maybe you're going to be the 4th person, but you could have contributed no cards to that at all.
Yeah.
And you could still sneak in and grab a treasure. I don't know if they're going to be a good treasure or not. Yeah. I don't know. I would like to play it again. You are going to play it again. I don't care what you say. We'll play it 4-player, 5-player, but we'll make sure we curate the players. But I don't know.
Like I said,
it plays in 30 to 60 minutes.
Yeah. I would play it again if you really wanted to. It just, again, this is going by 1 play.
Right.
1 play that was way too late in the day to be learning a brand new game. And I was very disappointed by it. Now, it could have just been my mood, whatever else. It's just the game just didn't sit right with me. It's like, oh, right, I'm going to get this treasure here. Oh, no, I'm not. Someone just moved the boat. Okay, so I don't have any cards to do anywhere else. So I'm just going to sit here and do nothing this round. That to me it kind of kills games for me.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And that's why this one, it happened to not just me, it happened to other people. And you could tell people would be going, oh, this is really, I'm not doing anything this round. So, okay, I'm just going to check on my phone when everybody else plays the game for this round. It kind of takes you out of the game, which I wasn't overly fond of.
And it very well could be that's, going to be the same experience next time you play. And it could be an experience for at least somebody every time the game is played.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's a look back at our 5 games we played, or that we talked about on whatever episode it was. I don't know the number of it. Loot Island, The Sanctuary, Endangered Species, Welcome to, Let's Make a Bus Route, and Dragon's Gate College.
So all those games are from 2017. So we were talking 4 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. Huh. Well, we're cold to the new here. Well, all right. Well, I was going to do an Ask the Chef question for that, but I think we're probably hitting the 1.5 hour at least mark, maybe a little longer. So I think we're going to wrap it up. We'll save the question for Graeme. We'll give him more time to ponder and think about it. And we'll come back next episode and ask the question. But I think that's it. I think it's going to wrap it up. You can find us on Facebook. Go ahead.
I was going to say, don't forget, we should thank our Patreon sponsors, our top tier sponsors for this episode. As always, we have Tom and Viger. contribute at the highest amount. So we always give them a shout out on our main podcasts. So thanks guys for helping support the show.
Absolutely. And we'll give a shout out to, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. So we got Lance, we got Ken, we've got John.
You better not forget anybody.
I know. I'm trying to think. I'm going to stop because I'll feel bad. I'll make another list different time. Anyways, reach out to us on Facebook, Board Game Buffet podcast page, Twitter at Board Game Chats, email boardgamebuffetpodcast@gmail.com.
And check out our Patreon, patreon.com/bgbuffet, and check out our YouTube channel, Board Game Buffet on there as well, where we post both of these video podcasts up on there. So it's twice a month. We also release a wargaming series that we're working on. Second one just went up. Every month we do a catch up, which kind of shows off the components, and we briefly talk about some games we bought in the previous month. And then for patrons only, we do two more video episodes a month. So there's quite a bit going up on our YouTube page right now.
Yeah, and it seems like people like interacting on the YouTube videos in the comments section. So yeah, that's I've got so many different things to check. Sometimes I come in like about 2 or 3 days or a week later from everything else, but can't keep up on it all. It's hard. So, all right. I don't know what else I was going to say there. I'll edit that part out, but as always, take care of yourselves and your loved ones. See ya.